Hello everybody, well back again to answer all those questions that you very kindly sent in. I asked a couple of weeks ago on Instagram if people would send their questions in, and we've been very pleased with the results. What I've done is I've written them down, and so I'll be doing my own Q&A, reading out the questions from what I've typed out here, and we'll get straight on with it. So first question is, with so many boilies being made and used nowadays, do you think carp prefer bait made with eggs or no eggs? What is an alternative to egg as a binder? Well, this is an interesting question. I think carp like eggs. They're about 40% protein. The yolk is a fat content. We can measure them. We can buy small, medium, large eggs. We can buy mixed eggs. We can weigh them out. We can measure them in terms of volumes of liquid. And we know that they work. They're tried and tested. The alternative to eggs would be quite expensive ingredients, like a combination of whey protein concentrate, egg albumin, and some of the flours are quite good binders, like gram flour, which is made from chickpeas or maple peas. It's an Indian flour. I don't advocate the use of wheat gluten at all. It's not a very nice ingredient and it makes everything go a bit gloopy and stretchy. So I wouldn't say wheat gluten. Certain types of oatmeal are quite good binders, and those are contained in one of the ingredients called CLO, bird food. So that's quite a good binder too. If you have a good blend of cereals, proteins, and other standard ingredients that we all know go into boiling ingredients in your own recipe, if you make your own bait, some of it will bind quite well with 50-50 water and eggs, but it will make a soft boilie. So I wouldn't recommend using egg alternatives, as the question says here. I would use egg albumin and whey protein concentrate, which is milk protein concentrate, for making harder hook baits, or adding between 2 to 5% maximum into a boilie recipe if you want rock hard boilies in short boiling times for using in a throwing stick or for long waits, long waiting periods of immersion in water. So I think eggs are absolutely fine, and if you want to be different, use duck eggs. Some people, if you really want to do that, there are plenty of people that use that. So eggs are fine, no problem. Here's another question. How much bait would you advise to use when pre-baiting very low stocked, smallish rivers for large or nomadic barbel, and would you use paste or boilies to do that? I've been asked this question several times before by email, and it often involves quite a long answer. So where you're not talking about the River Thames, the River Severn, the River Trent, these big rivers. We're talking about small, intimate rivers with large nomadic barbel that people need to locate and target. So my advice on that would be to try and find some areas of the river which are infrequently fished. So that could involve a long walk from the car park. Find the biggest snag or some fallen trees and fish upstream of those snags. Try and pick 2 areas on the river, and you don't need to heavily pre-bait because it just ends up being eaten by the chub or potentially wasted. I would say that it's best to pre-bait with boilies because that does help prevent the attentions of nuisance fish, roach, chub, bream, etc. So I would pre-bait with very lightly skinned boilies, and the quantity to use on these big rivers would be no more than 3 handfuls, say about 250 grams per swim. So that's half a kilo stretched over 2 swims. And to get the bait established on a given area, it really does depend on the stock level in that river and your knowledge as an angler of that stretch. So if you really think that there are fish within a mile or half a mile, let's say, of the area that you're fishing, they'll soon find it because they move up and down the river at very long distances. So keep baiting up. Don't be seen when you're baiting up. Don't upset the locals. Go over there when it's dark And another good tip is to try fishing early in the morning. That's a good thing to do, rather than most barbel anglers fish in the evening. So it's a good idea to sometimes bait up in the evening and fish in the morning. Not many barbel anglers do that. So 250 grams of bait on low stock rivers per swim, maximum number of times for baiting up, 3 or 4 days. It should be established and the fish will come to visit the location within that period. You don't need to use lots of bait if it's good bait. So that's all it will take, 3 or 4 days to get the bait established in that area and the fish moving onto it. Another question that has come, which is a bit of a trend. What are my thoughts on combining live bait, such as worms and maggots, on the hook together with boilies? Good idea, providing you haven't got a lot of nuisance fish, because then you're going to get a load of false bites, or they could potentially tangle the rig. So this is where, you know, you're mounting a pop-up potentially, or a sinking bait, and also combining the kebab rig of chopped up worms or a little Medusa rig of maggots topped on the top of it underneath the boilie stop. So there's action and mobility in the bait, which can be incredibly attractive. I know there are a few anglers that do this. It does work in the winter. So yeah, if you fancy giving it a go and you want to be a bit different, give it a try. But don't forget, the small fish could be a problem. If you've got a rudd or roach problem, or particularly bream if you're using worms, could be a problem in the lake. But yeah, give it a go. On a bit of a similar theme, I've got another question here, which is this. Some fisheries and clubs have banned all plastic baits. How would I make up something that mimics using the sweet corn toppers, you know, where you top off your bait under the hair with a little bit of bright yellow sweet corn or enterprise corn or anything like that? I have to say, personally, this is something I don't do. If I'm going to doctor a hook bait, I will wrap it in a thin film of paste. But if you do want to use a little topper, then what you can do is make up some boilies from light coloured ingredients. I don't like using dyes, and I'll cover that in a minute. And then you can cut the top. So if this is your, this is your round boilie, I'll use this bit of tape. Just cut the top off it, so you've got a flat top to the boilie, and make a different coloured boilie for the top of it, a pop-up, so it's got like a lid, and put the lid on top, and that's your topper. You just put the baiting needle straight through the two of them, put your boilie stop on, and you can do it 50-50. I don't need to demonstrate that, it's pretty easy. So you're going to cut a pop-up in half, put a sinker underneath it, and the pop-up on the top. And if you want to use, shop-bought ones that contain preservative and are sold in pots, then fine, because at least that's better than using plastic, and you're not breaking the rules. Another question on that same theme, which I suppose I touched on, about using dyes. Dyes, what's the best colour for bait? I've had a couple of questions about, is there a best colour? I don't use dyes anymore, and I haven't done for about 20 years. Why? I don't use dyes because all dyes will have a taste. And furthermore, I don't like adding products to any of my baits or mixes if you don't really need to. So I prefer to let the natural ingredients render the colour of the bait. So however the bait turns out, with everything that's added, whether you're using liquid foods, hydrolysate powders, shrimp extracts, anything like that, together with the powdered ingredients, which may include, some spices and powders which are red in colour, and the bait often comes out browny pink, or if you're using quite a bit of robin red, such as in my bio shellfish, it comes out quite crimson bright red. I like that colour. I think carp are attracted to a red colour. But if you've got a problem with bird life, brightly coloured baits can be an absolute nightmare. So quite a few people want to dye their baits to stop getting the birds eating it. And you can use lots of different natural products for that, like beetroot powder, or spirulina, which is green. And if you mix those two together, you get a very dark bait. So no, I don't advocate using dyes. Is there a best colour for carp? Well, probably most baits when they've been in the water, most boilie baits when they've been in the water for any length of time, 6 or 7 hours, even 3 or 4 hours, they all wash out a bit and they go a bit lighter anyway. So even if you put a dark fish meal type bait in, after a few hours, it comes out quite light in colour. I think a visual bait popped up off the lead, like a short zig rig this high, a yellow coloured bait is good. But as I say, they all go lighter coloured when they've been soaked in water anyway. But my two favourites would be, if I was to choose, would be yellowish and red. People say that dark baits work quite well, particularly for zig rigs. I'll leave that up to you guys. I tend not to use zig rigs. I'm not that desperate to use that type of rig because I don't think they're very safe to fish with. Here's an interesting one. What makes homemade DIY bait different or better than the top brands of the best commercially available boilies? So that's a question that is clearly directly coming to me because I'm an artisan bait supplier using extremely high quality ingredients. The baits, admittedly, they're not the cheapest, but they're extremely high quality. And that would be my answer. Very quick and easy. Only a few people are using high quality baits. Most people that want to invest in good quality baits are also usually good anglers. And good anglers usually only accept the best. That doesn't mean to say that expensive is best. But if you're making your own bait, and it does say here, what makes homemade DIY bait different or better? It's fresh. You can change the size. You can change the colour. You've got the ability in your garage, in your kitchen, in your workshop to make the bait that suits the session. So it has infinite variety, and there are 7 different things you can do if you're using your own base mix or a base mix that's made by somebody like me that you trust and rely on. You can change the shape, size, colour, texture, smell, taste. You can use it as a paste and you can use it as a boilie or a pop-up. You can mix cork granules with it. You have that infinite variety. That's what makes a DIY or homemade bait better. You don't need loads of it to bait up, because if it's good bait, it will work straight away. And that is something that a lot of people that have bait deals and are field testers and use loads of bait and sit over 10 kilos of bait that they spotted out, they think that's the bee's knees, that's what I should be doing. Okay, that's fine. Then I will go to those lakes and pals of mine will go to those lakes and just fish with hook baits, but with fresh hook baits they've made the day before in their kitchen, and the fish will come along and pick it up straight away. So if you haven't tried it, try it, it works. Next question, are powdered flavours better than liquid flavours? Well, there used to be quite a lot of powdered flavours around in the 70s and 80s, but most flavour companies now use pretty good technology, and they do use liquid flavours. I think liquids go better into fishing bait than powdered ones. Not to be confused with powdered enhancers, which include powdered flavours and a sweetener. So if you buy a bait enhancer, you shouldn't really put liquid flavour in your bait as well. You don't need both, you need one or the other. So powdered flavours, yeah, if you have a source of supply for a powdered flavour, give it a go, but you might need to use a sweetener with it, or just some natural honey, or even caster sugar is fine. You could even use a bit of condensed milk. So that works. So powder flavours, no, I wouldn't say they are better than liquid. Why? Because there's so much more variety and choice with liquid flavours. And the best flavours are made in liquid form. So I hope that answers that question. Can you explain, here's a good question. Can you explain, John, why so many bait companies recommend pouring all sorts of various liquids and powders over pre-made boilies. The questioner asks, surely it makes the bait too strong and overpowering, which might make the bait blow quickly. Yes, that's precisely what it does. And I'm going to give a bit more of a controversial answer. Why do those bait companies recommend doing that? Because they're selling more products. You've got to buy the bait, but you've also got to buy the glug, the liquid, the powder, the dusting powder, the additive, and by the time you finish, that's another 30 quid. Quite a few people have emailed me about this. I don't do my bait that way. I'm not saying that glugging natural extracts and things over the top of bait doesn't work. Of course it works. It all works. But you're giving the fish such a massive olfactory hit. The smell of your bait in that bed of bait that you're putting out, or even in individual baits, is so strong, it does blow quickly. And you know what? Glugging bait and pouring a load of liquids over tubs of bait is what about 95% of all anglers do. So if you want to be different, the guy that wrote this question is dead right. Don't use them. Or if you are going to use them, just use a few little drips in a bag, rub it round, leave it to dry. Don't use too much, and let the base mix do the work. So get the base mix right, put your additives in the mix, put low levels of flavour in, and let the fish get on the bait using low levels of additives and flavour. Then the bait will last much, much longer. The less flavour and additive in a good quality base mix, the longer it will last. So a good question, and I hope that answers it. Another one here is, what is your opinion, John, of using citrus flavours and oils in high attract wintertime hook baits? Well, I do a citrusy flavour. I don't know whether the guy that wrote the question is aware of it, but I do one called mandarin oil, which is various 3 or 4 different citrus oils. I think they're great. I think carp love citrus flavours. I think they work particularly well in winter. You don't need to worry about, emulsifying the oil or whether the oil will dissipate out into the water. That isn't too much of a worry. Just put it in with the eggs. The eggs act as an emulsifier, make your bait and use it fresh. And also, best way of getting the flavour and taste out quickly in the water, particularly in winter, is to make up a very thin paste wrap. Then you can control, with a paste, the amount of leakage of flavour that you're putting in. It's never going to be over the top. And you can write down the amount you're using and repeat it again and again, so you can do it again. So if you get a successful recipe, you can always replicate it. So no problem on citrus flavours. What I like to do with quite a few different essential oil blends, like the bun spice one or the citrusy one, is I like blending it with a confectionery flavour like TM1, Milky One, cream caramel and caramel banana. So you're getting something really complex which threads across various types of flavour levels. So the fish find it unusual and complex, and more importantly, it's impossible to copy. So you can sit there with a blend that you've made, DIY bait, at home, using your favourite flavours to a trusted recipe, and no one knows what you're doing. That's real carp fishing. Let's turn that page over. Going on to barbel. What flavours would you recommend for milk protein type baits? It does say A for carp and B for barbel, but the same flavour blends pretty much work just as well if you're using high quality milk proteins for barbel and for carp. I like to do something that fly anglers say when they go fly fishing, and that's matching the hatch. So is your fly similar to the emergent life that's hatching off and the trout are eating? So if you're using a milk protein, then I like to use milk related flavours. And obviously those people that know my products will know that I'm bound to recommend things like Milky One, cream caramel, dairy cream, those sorts of milky creams. flavours. Why? Why? Because in milk proteins you have lactose, which is milk sugar. That is something which gives you that lovely creamy taste when you drink some full cream milk in particular. But also it will match some of the lactones, which is a flavour compound, which goes into the making of milky and creamy and cheesy type flavours. One of those linked lactones people think is diacetyl, which I use in my Top-X flavour. That's buttery and creamy, so any of the buttery, caramelly, creamy flavours are great in milk protein baits, and in particular in the winter time I do think you need to use something which will dissipate in the river, so particularly for barbel. Frost and Flood is milky and creamy, caramelly, TM1 the same, and those are absolutely tried and tested, deadly milk protein flavours, particularly for barbel, on deep rivers, small rivers, big rivers, anything you like. They love it. And one of the reasons they love it is it's completely different to fish meal diets. They're going to use a completely different type of breakdown in the stomach. It's like you eating meat every day. You would love to have perhaps something vegetarian on a different day. You don't want to have meat every single day because you get bored with it. That's a simple way of saying it, but fish are the same. So milky flavours, creamy flavours, confectionery flavours in milk protein, and you can combine those creamy flavours with top quality fruity ones like a really good plum or a peach, or strawberry, whatever it is, banana, something like that. And that really is giving that confectionery sort of Haribo type taste, you know those sweets Haribos. You can make anything you want at home. Here's a quick one. What is the maximum time period boilies should be kept frozen? That's easy. As short as possible. You should use them within 3 months. Why? Because the longer you keep anything that's good quality frozen, any fish or meat in a freezer, any food, particularly if it's got a reasonable protein content, freezing acts as a form of preservative which dehydrates and denatures proteins. It breaks down the protein chain. So it will still pretty much taste the same, but if you're going to use and invest in high quality bait, don't freeze it for too long. And most human food, it says, use within 3 months. And I think the same should apply to boilies. Let's have a look at another one. Here's a controversial one. Okay, so does the pH value of flavours, or even the pH of the bait itself, make a difference in its attraction to fish? I'll repeat that. Does the pH of a flavour, or even the pH of the bait itself, make a difference in its ability to attract fish to the bait? I've never heard so much nonsense in all my life. Quite honestly, there's so much rubbish spoken on the internet about this. I think it's from people that have run out of credible, factual things to say. So you can see that I'm very incensed with this question because I get asked it on a regular basis. Carp are not scientists, they're not chemists. The pH of the bait is completely irrelevant. Don't even think about it. Don't even go and buy your litmus paper and check the pH of your flavour, because it is completely and utterly a waste of time. Just go fishing. I'm not going to say any more. I'll leave you to think about that. Let's turn over to this one. Will a milk protein boilie outfish a fish meal type boilie recipe? That's a genuine question. And the answer is, will it outfish? Outfish is an interesting statement. I think if you can give the fish on any lake or fishery that are predominantly being targeted with bait that is made up from fish meals, I hate that term, fish meals, because it's ocean proteins, ocean derived proteins. So it could be krill based, it could be squid based, it could be anything. But let's say fish meals for the sake of keeping the questioner happy. If you're going to give those fish an alternative diet, like I alluded to earlier, then they're going to think, oh, here's something different. It's going to give me a different spread of vitamins, minerals, nutrients. I fancy a bit of milk protein bait because I'm bored with fish meals. So the answer to the question is, yes, I think it will outfish it, providing you use it properly and don't use too much. Here's a good one. What are the best particles to make up using particle punch? Here it is, particle punch. Probably one of the most well-established particle bait additives that's been out there in the bait trade. I think I started making this 25, 30 years ago. It still works. It's full of natural sugars. It's got maple. It's got TM1 and caramel. It's got all sorts of lovely things in it. Best particles, well, you can see the little pictures on here of angry tiger nuts, hemp, groats, sweet corn, tares, chickpeas. You can use it with any particle. My own favourites happen to be maple peas, obviously tigers if you can use them, although I don't use tigers so much these days, but I love maples because they're the same colour as gravel. So when you put a little bit of maples out, the fish don't get spooked over them rather than light coloured ones. So maples and hemp, a great combination. Also, particle punch is particularly good with sweet corn. So you can just put a glug of it straight in a tin of sweet corn, shake it all up and leave it and go fishing. And it turns the sweet corn a bit dark brown. So particle punch, worth using. Lots of questions on this one. Is the pick and mix coming back? Right, we'll get straight on this. It was a nightmare doing pick and mix, all those little bottles. And people are ordering one, which is £5, and the postage is £5. So the answer is, twist my arm up my back, and I might well bring the pick and mix back, but they'll only be available in packs of 3. And we all like a pack of 3. So, pack of 3, yes, I will bring them out for a limited time. There'll be preset packs so you can't choose, because otherwise it would be a logistical nightmare for me to try and do every flavour and every combination. So I will do them, but this also comes with another question. What about the trial packs I mentioned? So the trial packs will be coming out, and this will help people who haven't made DIY bait themselves, who haven't done it at home, and you won't need any equipment to do it, to make up 1 and 2 egg mixes of hook baits or paste for barbel or carp, and see how you get on and get the feel of using it, the feel of using the bait. Go onto the YouTube, have a look at all my bait making videos. I'll do some more to match the trial packs, but the trial packs won't be out until March. The reason for that is I've been called for jury service, absolute nightmare. So I've got to go on jury service on the 29th of January. Anyone that's been on jury service or been called up for it, it's pretty difficult to get out of it. So I thought, well, it's pretty cold in February, fishing's not brilliant. If I'm going to do jury service, I'll do it in February. So trial packs, yes, they're coming, and they'll be out hopefully around about March time, in time for when the fishing starts to pick up. Here's a funny one. Somebody out there who's called Baker, same surname, he said, is it okay if he calls me Uncle John? Well, yeah, of course it is. I'm Uncle John to a few people, so okay, mate, you can call me Uncle John. Lovely, I love it. Here's another one on flavours. Funny that, lots of questions on flavour. This guy says, if I had to pick one carp attractor or flavour for each season of the year, what would it be and why? Well, I could do an hour on this, but I won't. I think you have to pick probably 2 baits for your year's fishing. So you've got your 2 base mixes. I probably wouldn't pick a different flavour for each season. I'd pick a warm water flavour and base mix combination and a cold water base mix and flavour combination. So we're in the winter, my cold water base mix and flavour combination, because you have to have the flavour in harmony with the base mix, even if it's a very basic base mix that you've made yourself, but you want to put a good quality flavour in it. So winter flavours would be plum, TM1, peach, caramel banana, buttringer, frost and flood. Those are the best winter flavours I know. Summertime flavours, oil based. So all those previous ones are confectionery based. So I would go definitely first on the list, ala salar, chicken tikka, incredible, roast chicken, the sizz, it's a lovely sausagey type flavour, that's a very good flavour. And mixing those in combination with the tried and tested recipes like plum and ala salar, those sorts of things, peach, roast chicken, you can use that together, very unusual. And then as far as the base mix is concerned, you choose. So the question was about flavour, so I won't go into the base mix in answering that question. I hope that helps. So savoury, fishy, meaty flavours in warm weather, maybe with a little touch of a confectionery flavour to give it a bit of zip. And in the winter time, when the temperatures are cold, soluble flavours, pastes, boilies, seedy mixes, that sort of thing. That's what I would use. Here's another question to do with whether carp can detect oil in bait. Now, I think the questioner means food oil. And if by food oil, you're talking about salmon oil or vegetable oil, which is a food oil, yes, they can detect it. Obviously, salmon oil has a smell, and you've got hemp oil, sesame seed oil, all those different food oils that you can put on your salad dressing. So carp need around about 9 to 11% oil content, depending on the time of year. So in the winter time, believe it or not, they still need a decent oil content. But the oil that you would use in the winter time might not be a fish oil, it could be a vegetable oil. So I would say olive oil or soy oil would be best for winter time, and still at around about 5 to 9% by volume in your bait. And that's if you're getting bites, the fish are eating the bait because they do need the oil content. Also in pastes, a vegetable oil works quite well to keep paste soft in cold weather. So if you're a barbel angler, you're using paste. If you're a carp angler, you're using paste wraps around a boilie or straight paste. A little bit of vegetable oil in the winter in your bait keeps the bait soft. In the summer, you can use fish oil. So yes, they definitely can detect oil. They need it and they love it. Let's just switch over. Are there any particular flavours that might be used to target bigger, older, wiser carp? I would say no, there isn't a particular flavour. Your favourite flavour will do, but there is something I can tell you, and that is that it has been established with some proper studies that as carp get bigger, older, wiser, they have a greater genetic ability to detect their surroundings and evaluate food. And the reason for that is that the taste buds that are all around their mouth and head and inside their mouth actually grow, they enhance and they improve. So if you use a very, very good quality base mix recipe and a low level of high quality flavour, so you're not affecting the taste of the bait too much, you're more likely to catch those bigger, older, wiser fish. And if you don't believe me, try it. That's the answer. We'll just have a little break for a second. We'll switch off and I'll be back in a moment because I need a drink of water or a cup of tea because my throat's getting a bit dry and it's a lot of talking. So I'll see you in a second. Hello everybody. So it's a chilly day out there, so we've just made ourselves a cup of coffee, and that's quite a long load of questions, you know, particularly me going through them all and then answering them. It's over half an hour, so I hope I've kept everybody's attention. I do tend to ramble on, but I've tried to be as quick as possible. I've got one last question on here, which is really, really poignant to me. And the question is, can I bring back the old original pucker salmon flavour? Well, the answer is I'd absolutely love to, but sadly it's gone forever. And I tell you, I found the original salmon flavour, and the other person that I gave the information to is sadly no longer with us, and that's Rod Hutchinson. And Rod and I shared the information over a pint of beer in the Colne Valley when we were fishing at Savay Lake. And he persuaded me, being a persuasive, lovely guy that he was, to tell him where I got the salmon from. And so anybody that has ever bought that flavour, and only 2 of us ever have, because you can prove that you bought it, and there is the label. So here it is. The supplier was Bush Bocallan, who were based in Walthamstow in East London. Salmon flavour D533 is what it's called. But Bush Bocallan have been gone for over 25 years. They can't make the flavour anymore. I've scoured Europe to try and find somebody that will do it, but it doesn't comply to EEC food regulations. Here is their brochure, going back to the 1980s, the early 1980s, Bush Bocallan. In this incredible brochure, it just has hundreds and hundreds of flavour blends. Back in the 80s, this was my Bible. So, was it a great flavour? Yes, it was. It was ahead of its time, but it was based on something called arachis oil, which is peanut oil. Obviously, you can't sell a flavour with peanut oil in it because of allergies. But furthermore, some of the base core aroma chemicals in it are no longer compliant to, guess what, EEC food regulations. So I reckon the recipe does exist. No one will find it. It's gone forever. And you know what? I'm not too worried. And I'll tell you why. Because we've got alisalar. So alisalar is a salmon type flavour, which, bless his heart, I got from the late great Keith Selleck, with permission of his family. I've been selling this flavour for about 27 years, and it is truly phenomenal. It replaces pucker salmon, but I believe it is better than pucker salmon. There are people out there who would say, oh yeah, John would say that, wouldn't he? Well, for those people that haven't used it, you try putting it in your best fish meal, or in my bio shellfish, and watch the bobbin slam into the rod top. I'll tell you, it's brilliant. If you use that alisalar with the shrimp extract, which is now back in stock, you will never look back. And everybody, I will finish off this question and answer session by saying that I'd really appreciate all your support. And I'm 70 years old this year. 2024 is my 70th year. And quite how much longer I'm going to carry on selling the bait, this is a controversial thing to say, I don't know. But I promise everybody that I will continue doing it for at least another year. So make the most of all these lovely flavours, he says, dropping the bottle. Make the most of all these flavours, the plum, the alisalar, the TM1, the butt ringer, the caramel banana, the chicken tikka, the base mixes, which I put my heart and soul into. Make the most of the hook bait mixes and the other additives, because I don't sell gimmicks. I sell real bait for real anglers, and those guys that have used my products for some time often come back to me and say they will never change. Well, I will continue, but it's based on your guys supporting me. You continue to support, I'll crack on and sell. And I'll catch you next time. Trial packs are coming. Thanks for your support. Don't forget to subscribe. See you soon.